More happened in the crypto space over the past 24 hours than in all the last couple of weeks combined. Because if you did not catch it, we first had ourselves the Tether situation, which was that basically USDT was under investigation, or at least so it seemed, caused a massive panic in the crypto market, caused nearly everything to dump. But then, very quickly afterwards, the CEO of Tether came out to state that that was not true, there really wasn't anything going on at all, and prices recovered quite nicely. But at the same time, as those prices were recovering from this recoup, from this CEO statement, we all of a sudden got wind of some missiles going around again, and everybody on Twitter was completely confused as to the situation, what was going on. And apparently, this is not only fake Tether, but nearly $1 billion worth of open interest got wiped out on that fake Tether FUD headline. Healthy. But more importantly, if we take a look at the past, for example, 24 hours here, we'll notice that yesterday, or the last 24 hours, was actually quite massive on the long liquidations. And indeed, when taking a look at the last couple of months, we can see here all the way back to the 30th of April, let's say about 6 months here or so. Yesterday was indeed one of the worst days. We saw one worse one, October 1st, on the long liquidations, and then obviously August 5th, which is also when I actually lost a significant amount. But out of all those, yeah, this is the third biggest event, at least that we can see until the end of April. So one of the worst events of the year, even though it kind of didn't look like that much happened. But I mean, if we pull up a 15-minute chart, I think things become quite more apparent. So to put it into perspective, prices reached $68.8 thousand. Then pretty quickly afterwards, you can see we fell all the way back to 65.6 before recouping again, being up roughly 2% or so. But so to put it into perspective, down 5%, then all of a sudden back up 2.6%, now down about 1% or so. And you can see these crazy wicks throughout time here of just crazy manipulation, you can call it, or just these news events, right? Now, to add a little bit of fuel to the fire, the last couple of days, matter of fact, actually weeks, have been crazy exciting for the Bitcoin ETFs. If you're wondering, just yesterday, for example, the Bitcoin ETFs slurped up $402 million worth. All right, so while everybody was panicking and people were unsure whether or not USDT could be sustained, whether or not cryptos would do okay during turbulent times, the Bitcoin ETF is getting bought up by the institutions like crazy. And there's one thing that this reminds me of very much so. Now, before I say, make sure you go ahead and press that like button if you haven't done it yet. But it's basically this post right here that says, what is a little bit sad is that most investment decisions we make in this industry are very short term. Yes, I'm not better than others are here. In crypto, you are forced to think about the 4-year cycle and the massive inflation that eventually will hit all our coins. In traditional finance, success is linked to how well the business does over time. So both early investors and founders are motivated to make things work long term. In crypto, unlike IPOs and TradFi, token generation events can happen pretty much anytime and don't depend on the project reaching certain milestones. Since there are ways to cash out after TGE, secondary markets, OTC deals, etc., short-term thinking can give the best bang for buck, and you can just move on to a new opportunity. With a little article linked with a prisoner dilemma example. But it really made me realize one thing I have to portray more often on this channel, which is the short-term versus long-term outlook. I just want to quickly describe it. So on the short term, what we're looking for, what we're doing is primarily looking for what the trend is. What is hyped up right now? To be honest with you, it seems to be meme coins. I know it is for a fact. And you basically go as hard as you can on that industry by not necessarily looking for the undervalued one, but more of a momentum investment strategy. You go for whatever works. Whereas on the longer term, going for the hype is definitely not the best idea. If you keep going for hype, you're definitely going to lose. So what you're looking for is whichever area is going to be next, or rather whatever is underappreciated for the longer term scale. And that's when it comes to all these top altcoins, you know, for example, the Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana or XRP or BNB. If you're asking me, Dusty, when are you buying these? I'm going to tell you, you can always buy yourself these top altcoins, because if we're looking at it from a, let's say, multi-year perspective, I know that BNB will be trading above $1,200 not too long in the future. I'm not sure if it's going to be next month, next week, or next year, but I know it's going to surely, or I should say slowly but surely, keep going up, most likely over the next decade, unless something happens with Binance, right? And that's the same outlook I've got on Solana, same outlook I've got on Ethereum, etc., that I don't really have to think about is it really going to do well this cycle? Because it might not. But if we look at a 5-year, 10-year outlook, we all know that these will keep going up slowly but surely. Now, to address some of the smaller coins, many of these will die out. Just letting you guys know that even 60% of the ones that are in the top at the top won't make it to 10 years while still being at the same spot, if not on a higher spot. Most will fall down slowly but surely. And to address so what's going to be the next trend, the next thing on the cycle? Well, the more important thing to distinguish there is longevity. Is it something that will only last for a little bit, or is it something that can last us a lifetime? An interesting example there actually becomes Litecoin. Litecoin back in like 2017 and before probably was crazy hyped up. It was one of the best coins. I still have Litecoin from the old early days, when they used to be extremely valuable. Well, at least I think, how much was the price at? Right around the $400 mark at some point. It was hard for many people to think of a world without Litecoin, but it's actually a funny story. Litecoin is actually one of the ones that if you had bought back then and you DCA'd, you could have actually, funny enough, still made money, because some of the lower prices were like the $50 range, right now trading at roughly 70. I would never encourage anybody to even look at the direction of Litecoin ever, because the founder sold, I believe, in even the 2017 top, I believe, right? Charlie Lee, I think he sold everything right there. He might have sold it in 2021. I can't remember, right? This is long ago. What I do remember, though, is that really, if you start thinking about it, Litecoin has no new purpose. There's no real reason why it should get hype or do well, or why anybody should get into it. There's really no appeal. It could do well, but that's like just throwing up a coin and guessing. There's no real good reason. I would never DCA into Litecoin unless, like I just said earlier, you're trying to buy these dips purely on some small gains on there, because you know that it won't go to zero. It will most likely just slightly go up over time and sustain quite a lot of value, because there's some community still there. But I really don't understand why anybody would go for it. Now, again, this is not the perfect example, because Litecoin, even after all these years of being quite garbage, has still sustained. A better example, though, would be a coin like Dash. If you did not know, Dash at some point was $1,200, I think, maybe $1,400. Not 1,000% sure on the value. This coin used to be in the top 10 for sure. The all-time high was December 2017 at $1,650 actually. So right now you can see it's $20 or so. It is right now in the 176th position, whereas it used to be like maybe number 6 or number 14. I don't quite remember. You can see right there, the price was crazy high. There were people flexing running these nodes for I think like $250,000 or so at the time, which is making them crazy sums of money. But if you were a big fan, you just kept holding on, you'd have just slowly but surely gone down, what, 99% or so over the past few years, with minimal to almost no way of recovery. And so for a longer term outlook, those are the type of coins you want to emit. Those are the type of coins you don't want to bank on. And again, from that perspective, I like to think about what's going to be hyped up next, what's going to sustain, a few cycles. And Dash was a clear example. What wasn't? Litecoin, even though it's still doing well, I don't think will actually last. Once more, there is a thesis to be made as to why it could go sideways and slightly increase, but I wouldn't bank on it because it really doesn't make too much sense. And that's the analysis you have to keep making over prolonged periods of time. Can it sustain the next 5, 10, 20 years? For example, some of the coins being created right now that actually have touched the top 100. This GOAT thing just got made 2 weeks ago. Right now it's sitting in the top 100 at number 78. Will this last 5 years? Well, right now the volume is like 400 million. People are making crazy sums of money. Market cap went to $1 billion almost because of the Binance listing. People are hyped up. It was made by an AI. Sure. Will this last 10 or so years? I wouldn't bank on it, but if we're talking short term, yes, this does seem like something that could do well. At the meantime, by the way, did you know that Tether is expanding and things like gold are also picking up the pace? Just a little fun side note I wanted to bring up. And are you guys realizing that we've only got a few days until the US elections, and that this will most likely be one of the more key events that are going to cause our crypto prices to become quite volatile? At least I'm excited for it. Hopefully you guys are as well. Anyway, guys, that was my little update here on the current situation as to what's going on, but also a little bit of insight as to my long and short-term ideas, strategies, and plans. If you want more in-detailed videos, though, let me know down below. Yeah, hopefully see you guys again very, very soon.